Leroy is out today, so we, coming from his palatial estate, joining us here on the show today, Alex Dono. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, man, it's great to be here, especially with you, because usually whenever I'm on this show, it's usually when you're not here, and I'm usually with like some combination of Marcos and Leroy. So it's good to be here, even though we're not doing the type of show that you and I were hoping we could do today. And like I think you jinxed it, because when we were texting yesterday, you said like, hopefully tomorrow's just a party, but it's not.
Listen, if the biggest reason is me, I'll take it. If I am the biggest reason why we are not here celebrating today on a closeout Wednesday, we didn't get to have a closeout Wednesday. We delayed. It's a closeout Friday now.
It's okay. We'll have the party tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a better. Who wants a party in the middle of the week anyway? Let's just party going into the weekend. We're gonna be all hungover. We got the rest of the work week. Closeout Friday, way better. In hindsight.
It's Tobin's fault. It's not anybody.
Idea.
Yeah, it's not anybody missing 3-pointers. It's not Vlad's guy Jalen Brunson playing 48 minutes and scoring 38 points. No, it's Tobin's fault.
Just blame me. I'm good. I'll wear it. I'm good on that. Everybody thought I was a jinx for Sergei Bobrovsky. So now I'll wear this. I'll wear this too. It's fine. No problem with me. I'm good. It's we'll push it on to later in the week, because then. Then if they close it out on a Wednesday, then we got today's fun. But then what do we do Friday? Got the whole week. We got a 3-day week. What are we gonna do? So it's great. Just delay the inevitable. It was fantastic. No problem. Good for the Knicks. I don't really have any good. Honestly, I watched that game yesterday, Dono. It was the Heat didn't play good enough. Jimmy Butler wasn't good enough. They fouled way too much, and kind of the first time in the playoffs. You really have like an actual loss to kind of just sulk on a little bit, because that Bucks loss when they gave up a record number of threes, that was a stupid game. What are we doing here? Where they shot 140 points or something like that. So you can buy nothing into that. Then Jimmy was out for a game. They almost won that one. So you're almost like semi-proud of this one. So yeah, it's like the first time you really sit back. You're just like, this is what your team not showing up in a playoff game feels like.
Yeah, you always know a road game in that situation when you're up 3-1, it's going to be really, really difficult, because, the Knicks had to literally play like there was no tomorrow, because there was not going to be a tomorrow for them if they didn't win that game. And listen, from a Heat standpoint, it kind of felt like a regular season Wednesday, right? Because Jimmy looked a little bit more human. It wasn't necessarily playoff Jimmy, but you can forgive that with the way he's been playing. Didn't get enough help, didn't get enough 3-point shooting. So it kind of felt like we were doing a throwback to like March. It didn't really feel like the May basketball the Heat have been playing lately.
It was such a weird start to the game, because it was the most atrocious offense you'd ever seen in your life. It was basically like, I don't know, like an 18-13 game the whole way. And then the Heat ended it on a 10-0 run. And I really thought, I was like, oh, this is probably going to end the Knicks. I thought they were going to wilt. And then the Knicks came right out in the second quarter and responded with a huge run. And then Jalen Brunson really got going. He had a 3-point play to give him the lead. And they really didn't look back from there. It was still tight up until that third quarter where they started to take off. But the Knicks really, I thought, responded from what could have been a first quarter that broke them. And
14 points, man.
Yeah, I thought that they were ready to pack it up after that, and they didn't. So you got to give him credit. To the point of Jimmy. I think this whole, it was one of those things where he was, I don't know what that was from him yesterday. People are theorizing the ankle. I don't know. He played pretty badass defense, dude. I can't sit here. He was getting to the rim just fine, because if you look at his numbers and you see the lack of shot attempts. Okay, but if you see where he got his shots, getting to the free throw line, the plays he made on defense, blocking Jalen Brunson, I didn't think it was a very hobbled looking Jimmy Butler. The only thing we didn't really see was that jump shot, other than the one that brought it to within 3. And that to me was like the missing element. He didn't have that, let me just light this place on fire. Let me end this. It almost felt like he walked into that one. Maybe to your point of saying this had a regular season feel. He didn't really feel like this was a let's send them home game. And I just think that, look, the formula for this Heat team, for this Heat team to be what they've been, they need Jimmy Butler to be, as he's said, walking off the court the last 2 games, I'm the best player in the world. And he wasn't that last night. Jalen Brunson was the best player in the game.
Yeah, and you can't, like, for as great as Jimmy's been in this postseason. I mean, he came into last night averaging 34 points per game in the playoffs. You can't expect anyone, whether you're talking about LeBron James or Jimmy Butler, you can't expect that on every single game. And he just didn't shoot well enough yesterday. And listen, the Knicks, they had to have more energy. I'm with you. When that first quarter ended and the Heat were up 24-14, I thought it was RIP for the New York Knicks. I thought they were done, but they came out in the second quarter like gangbusters. I mean, has anyone, though, Tobin? I mean, listen, after the Heat win a couple games at the Kaseya Center, we're talking about the humidity, how that may have zapped the Knicks. I mean, it was 63 degrees, very low humidity in New York. I don't think the Heat were ready for that. I think that could be the reason why they lost that game.
It's true, because they're reptiles. Like they can't handle not having the humid tropical temperatures, and if they don't have that, then they're not the same basketball team. And
well, it's like iguanas. When the temperature drops 23 degrees, what happens to the iguanas? They freeze, they fall out of the trees. That's what happens to the Heat as well.
Same thing for Gabe Vincent. Gabe Vincent needs it to be a certain – so does Kevin Love. Otherwise, Kevin Love doesn't thaw. He can't go out there and hit anything. Man, Kevin Love was a torpedo last night, though. Oh, he was bad.
Yeah.
Listen, sometimes the old don't show up in games when they only have a day's rest.
That was
Kevin Love was – woo. Kevin Love and Gabe Vincent, like, if somebody were to wear the goat horns for yesterday, like, those guys, man, they helped dig the Heat a bad hole yesterday.
Well, and we go right back at it. Just only one night between games again, right? It's Friday. We go back at it.
Yeah. Which, like, look, that was, if there is something to this Jimmy ankle, like, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a concern. But that also, I wonder if that was part of the element of him not feeling like I got to go balls to the wall, because, like, the last series against Milwaukee, I don't think you want to give Milwaukee any hope, because it's like, if you let Milwaukee back in that series, give them any kind of hope, like, you never know. They're a really great team and they can get on a kind of a run. You never want to give anybody hope, but I truly do believe, I do think that the Heat, like, look, as badly as they played yesterday, as big a hole they got in, still almost pulled it out yesterday with playing the most imperfect game. So, yeah, maybe there was just this element to Jimmy thinking, like, I don't think I need my A+ game here today to beat this team. We nearly beat them without me. So maybe that was part of it, why we didn't have a Jimmy Butler who was taking all the shots and taking it. But yeah, he is the thing that is making this special. It's hard not to break it down. It's great to talk about what Max has done, the veteran leadership of Kyle Lowry, what Kevin Love has done. Lead us, Kevin. But Jimmy is the key. And if Jimmy is going to be if he's going to be really good, all right, you'll have a chance to win. But to win, you need him to be the best guy, bar none, on the floor. And he wasn't that last night.
For as disappointed as I was that the Heat didn't close it out, I've got to imagine the happiest person on the show right now is Vlad, because he's at least, Vlad, you've bought yourself a little more time. Not only are you a Knicks fan, but you're going to owe like 10 people in this building dinners if the Heat beat the Knicks. So you're like clinging to any hope that you're not going to have to buy Dan Day Prime 112 in a couple of weeks.
Well, it's not even Dan Day, so it's Leroy out of nowhere. Leroy just put Capital Grill on the bet.
He's just going. Leroy just goes for the jugular.
Yeah, he went for the jugular, so he's starving himself right now to try to get me.
He's on a juice cleanse.
Yeah, I hope he juices for another 5 more days.
Get to some more headlines here, brought to you by the new Palmetto Ford Truck Super Center. Why buy your truck at a car store? Palmetto Ford.
We know trucks.
Thank you, Jennifer. The Panthers also lost last night. They lost to the Maple Leafs 2-1 in Game 4, so they now lead that series 3-1. Shut off the water on them, Donald. Like, could not get anything going offensively. The Maple Leafs, they also play with a great desperation. Their rookie goalie was awesome. And just not the Cats, who always seem to be able to find that last goal to come back, and they just weren't able to get it last night, and really couldn't get anything going of a late rally on many chances either.
Yeah, it was a frustrating 2-screen experience. And I was, at the times when I was listening to the Steve Levy commentary, I was surprised that dude had any voice at the end of it, because like you said, it was one-way traffic for Toronto, but like every 15, 20 seconds, it was like, huge save, Bobrovsky, another huge save by Bob. So it's like, that was what was frustrating about it, Tobin, because Bob just committed robbery a handful of times on juicy Toronto scoring chances that should have been goals. It was Columbus Blue Jackets Bob, which we've seen a lot of in this series. So it gets to one of those things. As a big hockey fan and a big soccer fan, when you see saves like that by a goalie, you start to think, the hockey gods are in our favor, and that's going to be a chance that Toronto couldn't capitalize there. I really thought the Panthers were going to come back and win that hockey game, but the opportunities on the offensive side in the offensive zone just didn't materialize. So it's like I really thought Bob was going to keep the Panthers in it. You were going to get a late game tying goal, win it in overtime the way you've done a couple times already in this postseason. That's the way I thought that was going to transpire, because our guy Bob was standing on his freaking head.
Yeah, he was, and that's the thing is, like, we've been kind of spoiled over these last this last week and a half, because we've seen just incredible performances from him and them always being able to pull it out. I mean, that was 6 straight wins. So it's the first time the Panthers have lost in 6 playoff games. So pretty insane. And then with Jimmy, it's like, yeah, I felt when Jimmy hit that jumper and out of the timeout to put the Heat down 3, I was like, oh, all right, playtime's over. He's going to do it again. I really thought that. And when Grimes got that steal on him, I was like, damn, that actually can happen to him. That never happens to him. That happens to him because he just always seems like, all right, playtime's over. I'm ready. I'm ready to end this thing. But it wasn't to be last night. So closeout Wednesday has been postponed 2 days. No bigs. Marlins won last night. Yesterday afternoon though. So
okay,
500 again. Yuri Perez is coming up. Big series win against the Snakes.
The room got very silent when you brought up baseball on a day when we had closeout game. Like I'm looking at Vlad.
They closed out
our 305 parlay.
They were. In fairness to them, they closed out. They were the only one to close out on a closeout Wednesday.
That's true.
All right, good. That wasn't rocky at all. Anyway, if we could venture out, can we hear Jimmy Butler after the game yesterday, Vlad, and get Jimmy's thoughts on what went wrong for the Heat, and if it was the shots not going down.
Every time we're going to continue to take those shots. We're going to make those shots. But I don't think that offense was a problem. I think we fouled a bit too much. We didn't get back in transition. We didn't box out the way we were capable of. So it's never just about shot making. It's normally about everything else.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the fouling was one of the biggest issues. They had a ton of guys in foul trouble. They couldn't stop reaching. Jalen Brunson had him guessing. They were sending the Knicks to the line way too much. I mean, normally these games you're going to go and you can say free throw discrepancy was a big issue down it, but I kind of got it yesterday. Like Jimmy was the only guy going into the paint. The Heat needed a miracle run from Duncan Robinson to even make it a game, so they're hoisting a lot of threes. So free throw discrepancy made sense to me yesterday, and the Heat were basically almost in the bonus, getting the Knicks in the bonus early in that game. So that was a big deterrent and really ever able to get any kind of momentum going, because if you foul, then they get to go to the line and it kind of stops everything that you're working for.
Yeah, the Knicks had more than double the free throw attempts, which is never a recipe for success for the team who's on the other end of that. The Knicks went to the line 40 times. Heat went to the line 19 times. Now, unlike a Knicks fan, I'm not going to blame the officiating. I'm going to blame more the style of basketball and the way the Heat were playing them, but they got butchered at the free throw line when it comes to the attempts disparity. And then the other area, and listen, the Heat don't commonly out-rebound opponents, but they got beaten pretty badly on the glass, Tobin. The Knicks had 50 rebounds to the Heat's 34. So that's certainly another factor you look at, that these are not the recipe for winning a closeout game on the road when you have that much of a free throw disparity and that much of a rebounding disparity.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, they that was kind of their calling card, and they finally got a game where they were getting to the second chance points. I mean, the Heat had success with that early on too, of second chance points and scoring on turnovers and things like that. But yeah, I think that Miami putting itself in the kind of hole that they did, it like at the end, the shooting numbers don't look terrible, but man, Miami put itself in such a bad spot from the standpoint of they kept chucking up open threes, and it was like 3 of like 19 at one point. It was terrible, and mostly Kevin Love.
Yeah, something I do wonder, and somebody brought this up in the chat. Dr. Toboggan brought it up on the Twitch chat. Tom Thibodeau, as he's known to do, he gets every ounce of sweat out of certain players. He did play 2 guys, including Jalen Brunson, for 48 minutes, and now you only have 1 night of rest between games 5 and game 6. So, you have to wonder if you could have some tired legs out there. So I think that's going to be another thing we watch out for on Friday.
It's definitely something I think you got to watch out for, because like Jimmy, Jalen's also playing this one a little bit banged up. And when you get to these points of the series where you do play every other day, as you can see in many games, how are you responding to these types of things, which is maybe part of the reason Jimmy didn't go balls to the wall last night, because he's like, look, I don't think I need to press the action like I did against Milwaukee. And maybe they walk out of there with a win, which they almost did.
Yeah.
So, and that will be an interesting thing to work to look at and to see if Jalen can match that, because he was superhuman yesterday. He was outstanding. They got a good game from Randall. I did.
Finally,
he got popped in the face by Bam Adebayo. I think that's the secret to success. Just play with one eye.
Dude, did you see he had a nasty shine?
I thought that thing was going to close. I thought they had to call him like Stitch Durand on him. Like, he was like winking the entire game.
Cut me, Tips. Cut me.
But it seemed to work for him. It feel like it locked in Julius Randle.
It reminded me of Rocky with Paulie in the corner. I can see 3 of them. He's like, hit the one in the middle, and then Mickey's like, that's right, hit the one in the middle.
So he was great. RJ Barrett was great. Their stars had a better game than Miami. Duncan Robinson, had a little bit of a resurgence. That was fun to see.
That was scary.
I know. And like the Heat had looks there at the end too. Kyle Lowry and Duncan were getting looks there at the end. So that's why it's like I can't. Even though I know that was probably one of Miami's worst efforts of the playoffs, pretty clear they haven't lost many games in the playoffs. Man, they still almost pulled it out, and that with taking on a desperate Knicks team with their stars playing amazing, and your star playing pretty good, and Bam playing pretty good, and your role guys not playing well, and they still almost pulled it out.
Yeah, like I haven't looked at. I'm sure there's a line out already for game 6 on Friday night. I'll see if I can pull it up, or maybe one of you can pull it up, because I know the Knicks were 3.5-point favorites last night. Obviously, they covered that. I got to figure they're going to have Miami probably 4.5 or 5.5-point favorites for that opportunity in the closeout game tomorrow. So I'm curious to see where they go with that.
Heat are favored by 4.5.
There you go.
208.5.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
that at 5 on ESPN. So
really, yeah.
So which I think is probably about right. I expect I think, and Miami hasn't lost at home this year in the playoffs, so they've been very good there. I'm very confident going into tomorrow night that this is the game that gets it done. I picked it in 5. I was disappointed I didn't get to bust out my monocle. But I get to
that's what I was looking for. Where's all the top hats?
I'm saying for the Panthers.
Yeah, right.
Panthers get the gentleman sweep the Leafs. So I still get use out of it.
I'm a glass half full type of guy. And I grew up on Heat Knicks in the 90s. So I guess if there's any saving grace here to this series being extended, maybe it gets a little more bitter, a little chippier. We get to see more of it. Because the one thing you could say, if the Heat had wrapped it up in 5, you're never going to look back on this series and say, oh, this was another chapter in the Heat-Knicks rivalry, because they had a 5-game series in the Big 3 era that the Heat won, and nobody outside of Amari Stoudemire, blasting his hand against the fire extinguisher. There wasn't really anything memorable from that series a decade ago. So maybe game 6 will give us something memorable. We can look back at this series like, yes, another great chapter in Heat versus Knicks, because obviously a 5-game Heat series would not have been that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I still think that this series has kind of lacked those classic moments, but yeah, it's a 6-game series is a long series. I guess we'll see what the last game, performs, because I don't think this has been the best basketball to watch. Like these games haven't been the most pleasing. A lot of it has been dirty work games. It's almost been a little bit of a throwback, but we're not used to that these days anymore. Like these days, it's all 3-point shooting and beautiful game. And even Jimmy's games have been like, Jimmy was hitting those jump shots all over the Bucks, all over the place. And, this has been more second chance points, get dirty rebounds, which look, he identifies with. That's the type of play that he likes. But I do think that what we saw in the Bucks series where he was lighting the world on fire. I mean, he was pulling up from everywhere. He was hitting all of his spots on the floor. And then yesterday, he's doing the cute troll thing where he's like, well, I'm not a scorer. Do you have this, Vlad? This was Jimmy afterwards, which is just classic contrarian Jimmy Butler.
I was making all the right plays. I'm not a scorer anyways. So, you know what? I don't know how many I had, but like 19 or something like that. That's enough for us to win. If we make a couple more shots, I don't think that question's asked the exact same way. Doesn't matter if I score 40 or 50, 19 or 9. We always have enough to win. And if I score 10 points next game and we win, that won't be an issue and it won't be a question. And I will continue to play the right way.
So there you go. He says now all of a sudden he's not a scorer, even though he's been the number 1-2 scorer in the play.
Yeah, a guy who a couple weeks ago scored 60 points in a playoff game. Now I'm not a scorer. Okay, thank you.
If you want to talk about something that Jimmy Butler will never ever want to give, it is the exact quote the media wants. Like he is. If you say Jimmy Butler, do you think that you played good with shoes on? Do I think I played good with shoes on? I think I could play good with no shoes on. I think I could go play in flip flops and still put it. But like he will do that every single time if he just like if the last place he wants to be on is on a podium. So if you think he's going to get you, oh, did the Knicks do anything defensively? Did they do anything defensively? They don't even need to defend me. I don't even score. What is basketball? Actually, I want to go play tennis. Yeah. Like that's what he's going to be. That is the enigma that is Jimmy Butler. That is what's going to go out there, and he's going to be that way. But yeah, they need him to go out there and be more aggressive. I get it. He was doing a good thing in that he was trying to get his guys involved, and his shooters let him down. Kevin Love, Gabe Vincent couldn't hit the broadside of a barn yesterday. Max Strus was okay. He was fine, but until Duncan came in, they really just didn't have that punch that they had from downtown. Him and Caleb Martin hit a couple of big shots there at the end of the third too to kind of get it going, but it just took too long. You can't expect to always dig out of that hole, even though they almost dug out of that hole.
Yeah, and it's one of those old cliches that we've all seen it in the playoffs over the years. The role players and the three-point shooters they tend to be a lot more reliable at home than they are on the road. So you could kind of figure if you could paint up the same scenario in terms of the shot creation in Game 6 at the Kaseya Center, instead of 30% of those going in, maybe 42% of those go in. That tends to be the way that this trends a lot in the postseason.
We'll take a quick break. We'll roll on, continue our coverage. And got other stuff to get to along the way. The NFL schedule is coming out today as well. We got some of the games that are trickling out